Jim Rupp from Columbus Percussion, here to kind of show off a bit of my Slingerland drum collection. My first quality set of drums was a 1969 set of Slingerlands, Maroon Sparkle. I still have them, they still sound great, it's a classic kit. And ever since then, when I was on the road or trade-ins here at the store, I've kind of added to my collection of Slingerland drums, and the guy suggested I show them off. A bit of a disclaimer, I'm a bit of a Slingerland historian, but there are probably guys who are more expert at this than I am. So if I'm off on a date or a detail, please forgive. So Slingerland first started as a banjo company. Well, the banjo trade started to wane and everything, so Slingerland went over and purchased Liberty Musical Instruments, which was a drum and banjo company. And one of the first drums I've got is this Geisler snare drum. If this style, you can see how these claws attach to it. It's an aluminum shell, attach here, and they tension the drum by clamping onto this. Kind of reminiscent of the Peavey drums quite a few years ago. And a very simple throw-off that works well. And I will tell you, this drum sounds great. It's a classic old drum. An interesting tidbit about it is these parts and the heads to the tuning thing are banjo threading. A standard drum key won't work. You have to have a special key like a banjo to do it. Next in line would probably be this one, which one of my guys put together. Late 30s. I'm not sure whether this was just like a beginner drum from the time with the classic, the metal snares and a basic throw-off. It's a 13. Here's another bit of drum trivia. Gretsch was having great success with the Broadcaster series of drums, spelled with a K. So Slingerland decided to make a Broadcaster. 1935. Single ply maple drum. This just came in with actually a full kit of these. No work has been done, so forgive the rough condition here. Missing the arm up here, but you can see this has Slingerland Broadcaster on the top of it. It has what became commonly called a three-point throw, three little bolts that come across, or that hold a strainer on. And then there's this bridge across, which all this went to transfer to what became the iconic Radio King snare drums. This bridge would go across here. This is not the, again, this drum just came in. You can adjust these two little wheels, you can adjust the height, but the snares would extend all the way across the drum. By the way, if you're interested, we have a full set of these. Tacked on heads, tom, 28-inch bass drum, all in the Duco. We've had a lot of offers for the snare drum, but I'm a big fan, especially on vintage drums, keep the family together. So we want to see that go to somebody who will appreciate it as a group, all the matching hardware. One of my earliest pieces I collected is this Radio King. And if you can see it there in the camera, that shell is a half-inch thick. And I actually managed there sometime in the 70s to find a set of extended snare. They're actually not the Radio King snares, but they work fine. It extends all the way across the drum. This drum, I've played a fair amount. The three-point still works great. Everything adjusts. It's just a classic drum. Another one. This one came in the store here, and I believe it was orange sparkle that was torn and crumpy and falling off. And I said, normally we like to keep the finishes original. When it came in, I said, hey guys, let's strip that off and refinish it natural. Look at it. It was bird's eye under there. It's gorgeous finish on it. Similar. These are like late 40s. These drums, this is 1935, sometime late 30s also. This badge kind of specific dates this drum from the late 50s. It's a Radio King shell, again where the finish was all messed up, but it's a solid shell underneath, and they were starting to make that transition. This is to the modern lug casing instead of the Radio King casing, and instead of the brass stick chopper straight up hoops, Now we've gone into that classic Slingerland design, unlike, say, Ludwig or the other drums where that top flange came in, it went back into the center of the drum. It's interesting to see this making a bit of a comeback now. Yamaha's new Tour Maple Custom has that design. Some of the Mapex drums have that design. Nothing new. Similar drum. This one just came in where the red sparkle was gorgeous. This is slightly later, you can tell from the badge, mid-60s. Now, a couple interesting pieces to me. This drum came in fairly recently. And it was with a full set of chrome Slingerlands, and I think it was a 6-piece kit. Every drum was a different vintage, but they were all chrome. And it took me a minute to realize, I kept looking at this drum. It's the Radio King shell. It's got the stick chopper brass hoops. It's a little thinner drum, and it's got the Zoom-O-Matic modern throw instead of the 3-point Radio King throw. And I'm sitting there thinking, this drum looks familiar, and I dug through my old catalogs. This was a chrome version of the Buddy Rich snare drum, signature model. This drum was offered in white marine pearl and chrome. Very cool old drum. Here was my first good snare drum. And you can tell, see these 3 little lines and bands across here? This is a chrome over brass Slingerland, probably early, mid-70s. Zoom-O-Matic throw-off, triple flange steel hoops. This is a chrome over brass drum. Personally, this is probably the most underrated high-end vintage snare drums out there. There are a fair amount of them out there. They sound great, and they're very affordable if you can find them. My first drum, I was a Slingerland endorser in the late 70s, was this. This is when Slingerland went from classic 3-ply shells, which they had used 60s, 70s, some of the best sounding Slingerlands ever, and I'm a big fan of those drums. I own 2 sets of them. This was when they late 70s, they went to a 5-ply shell. I wasn't crazy about the 5-ply in the toms and bass drums, but I did love this snare drum, 5-ply. This also went to the modern TDR throw-off, and you can see how this, my personal feeling, this is kind of an updated Radio King. Maybe this is a reaction to the Rogers Dynasonic with the extended snares across there. I'm purely surmising that, not sure. But this was called the TDR throw. This is a workhorse. It's practically indestructible. TDR stood for Total Dynamic Response because the snares go all the way across the head. The interesting little tidbit about this drum is it's a 12-lug drum. This was actually given to me by Phil Halsey and the folks at Slingerland in 1979. So cool, some vintage Slingerland trivia, a bit of my collection. Hope you enjoy. My little tribute to Steve Gadd.